In 2010, Jan Maccabee was living with her husband Bruce in a town called Lima, Ohio. Jan decided to go out on a hunt, and she made it to her tree stand by about 5:30. The forest she was going to be hunting in was one she was very familiar with, and it was not very remote. There were a couple houses just outside the woods, and her nephew actually went to high school just a mile north of these woods. But from the tree stand where she was sitting, all she could see around her was trees. By about 6:20 p.m., she still hadn't seen any deer, and she was starting to get bored, so she decided she would take a selfie. And as soon as she was done, she became aware that the forest had suddenly gone completely quiet. And she knew as a hunter, the only time this happened was when a large predator was in the area. She immediately became aware of something about 20 feet away in the tree that was right across from her. Moving left to right through the branches was this thing like it was a see-through person that had been wrapped in Saran Wrap. This thing has now moved down a branch closer to her and has stopped, like it's perched on the branch, staring at her, and she takes a picture on her BlackBerry right as this thing kind of disappears behind the tree and vanishes. All the sounds in the forest came back, and at which point she brought her phone up to look at the picture she had taken. When she looked at it, it looked like a blurry mess. That night, when Jan got back to her house, she did not tell her husband Bruce about what happened to her in the tree stand because, again, she's telling herself it was all in her head. They have dinner, they clean up, they sit down in the living room, and they're both on their phones, and they're just kind of scrolling through the internet and their emails. And at some point, Bruce reacts to something he's reading. He makes a sound. And he said, you know, I just got a really interesting email from our nephew. Today, they were outside for band practice, and at some point, all of them turned to look at the forest, and there was a bright circular light that was kind of hovering in the forest. The light kind of went back into the forest, and they didn't know what to make of it. And I guess one of his classmates said that a year before, the exact same thing happened. And as soon as he finishes, she says, what time did he say that happened? Bruce picked up how intensely she was asking him. And so he looked at the email, looked back at his wife, and was like, it was between 7:50 and 8. Why? At this point, Jan revealed everything that had happened to her while she was hunting, seeing that visual distortion in the trees. The forest she was in was the same one their nephew was claiming to have seen this circular light floating inside of. She told him she tried to take a picture of the thing she saw, but the picture didn't come out. But her husband, who is an optical physicist and therefore an expert at analyzing a picture, said, here, let me take a look at it. And he discovered an anomaly. Jan's BlackBerry was only capable of taking pictures in 3 distinct resolutions. And this picture she had taken of this thing she saw in the trees, it was some random size that the phone was actually not capable of producing. And eventually, Bruce started conducting experiments to see if he could duplicate this image his wife had created. And he got pretty scientific about it, and he could not duplicate it. Bruce believes whatever was in the trees distorted this image. The picture resolution was altered in such a way that something had to have an effect on it. There was a third-party effect on this picture.